365 webinar. I hope my voice is audible. Today, we are here to discuss about the foundational strategy of how we can securely migrate to cloud with Microsoft 365. My name is Sri Vishnu Katari. I'm the Commercial Executive and Product Manager for Microsoft at International Information Technology in Oman. I am pleased to be here today with Mr. Ronak Shah and Najaz Rahman from our distribution end. They are responsible for our end user productivity on our company's behalf, giving us a solid foundation for our modern collaboration technology. I'll just introduce our agenda quickly. We are going to talk about the roadmap to Microsoft 365 migration and sort of support we can provide in a journey to cloud, and of course, to address your challenges. And as a reminder, this is a live session, so please be sure to submit your questions in the Q&A window. We have got our expert ready to answer all your questions. And with that, I would like to introduce Ronak Shah, our expert, to take the session. Ronak, over to you.
Yeah, Ronak, over to you.
Thank you, Vishnu sir, for a brief introduction. Hello, everyone. We would be taking a short walkthrough on Microsoft 365, the enterprise mobility and security suite that we have, and which is the need of the hour today. Before moving or jumping on to the technical aspects of how Microsoft 365 as a product suite has been beneficial for customers over a period of time, we will first look into why is it significant, like why Microsoft 365, what is the reason or what can be my choice instead of Microsoft 365. Now, to start off with, guys, the adoption of Microsoft 365 is something that began more over the past 1 year while we went through the situation of pandemic. So I can say that Microsoft 365, the mobility suite itself, is something which completely revises your approach towards the modern workplace, and you look into how securely can we make the users function from where they are, from any kind of a device, from any operating system platform, yet making sure that my corporate data is not being leaked out. I am safe from all the different types of vulnerabilities and stuff like that. Today, adapting to the modern workplace is a really big challenge, and at the same time we have thousands of things to be addressed, especially precisely when it comes to how the users are going to make sure that the data is not being leaked out, or how securely can I provide my access to the end users, or what kind of applications can the user access, on which kind of an operating system platform. Like, there can be thousands of questions that we might have to address while adapting to the modern workplace. The reason why Microsoft 365 as a suite is considered to be the best out of the list of products that you might have is it has got certain advantages which probably no other product suite might be capable of providing. Number one, it centralizes the identity and access management with the most powerful IDEM solution that we have, that is Azure Active Directory. Number two, it allows you to publish your applications on the corporate owned devices, or maybe on the fundamental of BYOD. It allows you to secure, define different types of encryption methods of data on those kind of devices. It helps you to publish multiple applications, the productivity applications that we talk about, precisely the OneDrive, or we talk about my Microsoft Teams or planners, applications which are meant for productivity and are to be used day in, day out by every user, including the Office suite, of course. And bringing all of this under one single umbrella is simply amazing. So it then becomes that to access the entire Microsoft 365 suite, I just have one single username and password. Using that username and password, I log in to my platform, and that's it. I am all sorted. I have the access to the latest applications. I have the access to all my corporate resources. Yet the company is making sure that my data is not being leaked out or my data is not being shared outside the corporate devices. Hence, the M365 suite that we have is no more just limited to applications, but it extends altogether from applications to your Windows, Android, iOS, and macOS applications, data security, compliance, threat protection services, and a lot more to offer. Today, the security landscape for every organization has changed. Reason: we have users probably accessing resources from every part of the world. We have the accessibility of users to different cloud applications using their corporate IDs. So I have my user probably who is using a storage on Dropbox, maybe who is using Microsoft 365 applications, using G Suite also, a lot more. So today, if we talk about the complete, you can say platform of security, I would divide it into three verticals. One will be the identity. When I say identity, it in simple terms means either the user or the group of users. The second vertical would be the devices. When I say devices, I talk about again the laptops and the desktops, the mobile devices and the tablets. And the third vertical would be the application and the data. Here, I mean the business applications and the business data that the user will use on those applications. So while I give access to my users across the resources that are being provided, I need to make sure that the right identity on the right device is permitted to access the right application and the only authorized data inside that application. Now, practically speaking, when we are pitching the Microsoft 365 as a suite to the end customers, it really becomes important for all of us to know that this particular suite is not only limited to the Office applications anymore. So there is a massive difference between the Office 365 and the Microsoft 365 suites. Office 365 is only limited to applications, whereas Microsoft 365 covers the entire security landscape plus the applications and the data. The variants that you will have as a part of your enterprise mobility suite is going to cover everything from your Active Directory, that is your identity management, wherein you have modern authentication, you have biometrics, you have smart card based authentication, you have different protocols understood by different applications apart from Kerberos and LDAP, basis which you perform something called as an ATA, an analytic solution which is implemented to identify how, where, and what my identity is accessing. Moving further, you have a versatile suite for managing your mobile devices and mobile applications. This versatile suite allows you to not only just push settings on those devices, but you can control these kind of devices as hard as you ever controlled using your on-premise native group policy solution. And lastly, when it comes to data, you implement information rights management services or Azure information protection to completely encrypt the data that is being shared with the end users. And when we have all these four components in place, at the end, I can have the Microsoft Cloud Application Security as a solution, which is going to give you the complete insights of what an identity is accessing, what all have been the vulnerabilities or where all has my environment been compromised, whether the data that was encrypted has been accessed correctly by the right decryption algorithm or not, and whether the devices are compliant in place with the policies that have been pushed using Microsoft Intune. So basically, the entire suite of mobility targets at managing your complete modern workspace with the latest features and latest services given to the user given to the user wherever they are working from. For identity and access management, the numbers are enough to understand how powerful Azure Active Directory is, because these numbers are growing by every passing month. You have more than 44 million users that are active and connected to applications or authenticated across Azure Active Directory to access third-party applications. This is not about Microsoft applications. This is about even the third-party applications. And mind it, these applications or the data for these applications need not be stored in the cloud. It is all which is going to be accessed from your on-premise just by having your web application published the way you do it for any solution, even if your entire infrastructure is running from on-premise. Managing the mobile productivity with EMS becomes really easy because of the multiple options that come as a part of the feature set provided by your 365 suite. So you can have a universal choice of devices. So when I say it supports iOS, macOS, iPadOS, when I say it supports Android, it supports Windows, you're probably covering each and every single aspect of the operating system on any kind of an end user device. Easy access to resources, because all the applications will be by default pushed on my device. So it's like the moment I log into my Apple device or to my Android device with my corporate username and password, automatically my device goes under compliance and all the applications will be installed on its own by policy. I need not go and do anything manually. You can then define your own profile. You can do password resets. You need not approach your administrator again and again in order to have any kind of a security information reset. You can have the latest of the Office applications installed as a part of the suite. And after that, what comes in place is data protection using different options, like probably you should not be allowed to copy paste a file. You should not be allowed to, edit a file that has been sent to you. You should not be allowed to forward an email. You should not be allowed to send email to a particular hierarchy, right? So these are the kind of things that we can set up, plus having conditional access and protection even after the files are being shared. So for example, you had the complete authority to access, edit, manage, and modify a file which you shared it with one user who is external and does not belong to the company. Even if the file has been shared, the file has gone encrypted. So unless and until that particular user on his account does not have the decryption algorithm, the file will not be accessed. There is so much to do. There is so much that has been offered, that one single username and password activates your licenses on your Windows operating systems, gives you the access to all the applications that you would any day require, protect your data, protect your identity, give you much more in terms of mobility as compared to what we did in our on-premise ever. Basically, it satisfies the complete mobile productivity challenge. When I say the mobile productivity challenge, I also call it to be the modern workplace challenge. Reason? We always have something called as expectation versus the reality. And in this case, we have the user expectations versus the corporate expectations, which actually are the reality. User will want to have seamless sharing and collaboration of data and files. They should be able to access their data from any operating system platform, and at the same time, they should also be able to use everything on familiar apps like your Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Now imagine you are permitting your users to have the access on their mobile device, which is probably traveling in any part of the world. The user is accessing files over there on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other native Office applications. And at the same time, user is also sharing files and data with the users he is allowed to. So to maintain the security, you will make sure that this particular suite is implemented end to end with a proper solution design. So guys, when it comes to pitching Microsoft 365 as a solution to the end customers, the key advantages over here are that it is an elevation to your existing Office 365 suite. It helps you maintain or retain all your data on premise, still give the users a seamless accessibility to all the resources from where they are across any operating system platform. And at the same time, explaining them the biggest parameter, that is the difference between Office 365 and Microsoft 365. It is that time when the customer will actually be able to know or actually be able to understand how vast Microsoft 365 is and the kind of offerings that it is able to provide. So ultimately, the entire Microsoft 365 suite, we can say, comprises of three major products. That is your application suite, your Windows 10 based laptops or desktop based operating system licenses, and lastly, your enterprise mobility plus the security suite, which is going to allow you to implement all sorts of compliance policies that you want to have for your end users and their devices. So the mobile landscape, again, is something that we cover in three different verticals: the identity, the devices, and the applications. But at the same time, I will also have different category of users who are going to access this data. So when I say different category of users, probably there are some full-time employees. Maybe there are some part-time employees. There are some external business contractors. There are some business partners. There are some auditors from different organizations. And finally, you have your end customer who is actually going to get that particular data. So while you are setting up the Microsoft 365 suite, you can actually go down and categorize as to what level of policies should be applied to which kind of a user. Maybe if I have an employee, the number of restrictions that I will set on the employee are going to be way too less as compared to what I will set on an external auditor on an external contractor. These kind of settings can all be satisfied by one single platform, that is your Microsoft 365 suite. So basically, when we talk about the features of M365, to make it even simple, it implements protection at four different layers. The first layer is going to be the identity. When I say the identity, what I mean is the user or the group, the sender and the recipient, basically the object which is going to access the data. The second layer of security gets applied at the device level, meaning where? Where is the user going to access the data? Is that going to be on a mobile device, or is it going to be on a laptop or on Android iOS? What is it? The third layer of security that will be applied will be at the application layer to identify which application is the user trying to use to access that particular file. I can restrict my users that if there is a Word, Excel, or a PowerPoint file, you need to access them only in your Office 365 applications. I can restrict my users that for PDF you are supposed to use an X application only, the other applications are not permitted. I can restrict my users to probably play a streaming media file in the default player itself. You cannot access that content in a third party player that you might install, and many more such examples. And lastly, what you will implement the security for is going to be the data that the user will access. That is where your information rights management, information protection services fall in place to encrypt the content that is coming as a part of the email. You then also implement something called as conditional access, which does a policy verification and makes sure that the user is authentic. Because if the user isn't authentic, the user does not get an access to any of the resources. But the moment the user is authentic, he is granted complete access to all the applications in your environment. Conditional access is again pretty much versatile, giving you many options in order to implement the security in a way that your environment stays protected at a next level. So I can say that maybe if I'm allowing a user, I have a user in the name of Tom who is being allowed access on an Apple device. So I can set up a conditional access policy over there that if the user is Tom and if the device is any other device apart from iOS, please block the access of the user. So each time that the user will now try to access it using Android or now try to access it using maybe his uh, Windows device, he might not be allowed to do that. He's only allowed to access it on an Apple iOS device. So these kind of conditional access policies, which are typical if then else kind of statements, is something which help you to protect your data and your information at a next level. It gives you options on a single device to categorize which are the end user applications and which are the corporate applications. Basis which it will group all the corporate applications as company managed apps. Now, inside a company managed app, let us take an example that I have a file which is originating from my organization. My office applications on mobile devices today are intelligent enough to understand which is a personal file and which is a corporate file because it will have the encryption tokens assigned accordingly. So one single application would be intelligent enough to bifurcate between the corporate and the personal data. Once I have an access to the corporate data, once I have a file that is being shared in my corporate email, I can copy that particular file, but I will not be allowed to save it on the device or on the personal storage. I can probably then open the content from Excel, paste it into the Word file, and try to save the Word file on a personal storage. That too would not work. The only option that will work is saving the data in the corporate drive itself, which means that it does not simply look at the files, but it also gets into the file hashes to see what kind of data is written inside that particular file. And based on that, it categorizes whether the file can be saved on a personal storage or not. To your surprise, apart from Microsoft 365 and your Microsoft applications, you have a bunch of third-party applications which support a direct single sign-on with your suite. So if at all you have a user account created in M365, you can have that user account access the solutions like Dropbox. You can have the user directly access data maybe from another cloud provider altogether, maybe have the data stored on an SAP app and on an SAP database, or it can also be something which I'm trying to push out to any other ticketing or monitoring component. So practically speaking, Your Microsoft 365 identity services are not only limited to the Microsoft Cloud, but they also extend versatility to other third party renowned applications across the industry. Not only that, you might have some of your own line of business applications as well. Those line of business applications which have been developed in house inside your organization, and you want the authentication to take place using your cloud based identity solution, that is also possible. And if not that, you can directly publish aspects like your VDI, the Windows Virtual Desktop Infrastructure solution, which you can implement in the cloud to push the accessibility to all the applications over the authentication done by Azure Active Directory. As I mentioned earlier already, you have all the different modern authentication methods, including two-factor authentication using an authenticator app on a mobile device. All of these are available by default. It does not require an additional layer of configuration from your end. Bringing all together, forming one final suite for your environment, that is the Enterprise Mobility Suite. To unify the experience of the users across the Android and the iOS devices, they introduced something called as Windows Hello for Business. What exactly is Windows Hello for Business? It integrates the modern authentication methods of biometrics that are available today on any Android or iOS device. Probably, this is going to unify my experience of accessing the resources across the Android or iOS and even my laptops. So, probably if I'm using the facial recognition or the iris scanner on my Android device, or I'm using the Face ID on Apple, the same thing is something which I can use to unlock my Windows devices using the typical Windows Hello for Business as a service which is available inside the operating system. You then have the next level of endpoint security solution in place. That is the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection Services. Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection as a solution is not the typical Windows Defender that you have on Windows 10 machines. It is, you can say, far ahead as compared to the native Windows Defender because it extends its protection boundaries beyond merely virus, malwares, and spywares and stuff. You have ample of policies to be defined at the hardware layer protection for your machines. You have typically endpoint detection and response algorithm which can directly shoot up emails to you on any kind of a compromise happening on your device. It has auto investigation and remediation for services or some well-known vulnerabilities which can occur on your device. And lastly, it has a collaboration with something called as the Microsoft threat experts who sit in the backend and are continuously available to help you each time you get stuck deploying the Windows Defender ATP as a solution. So ATP on the whole is not a single solution to implement. It is a combination of three different products. The Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection Services, which is implemented at the application layer. You have your Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection Services, which is implemented at the endpoint or the user device layer. And then you have your Azure Active Directory Advanced Threat Protection Services, which are going to be implemented to have a complete watch on all the identities in your environment and to also secure your servers at the same time. After implementing all of these, the best part of the entire suite is your Microsoft Cloud Application Security, the most versatile suite to give you the complete insights of what is happening in your environment, control those particular activities based on policies, and also do the threat detection. The interesting part is the cloud application security can give you details like the browser that the user used, the public IP address of the user, the travel history of the user in the past 30 days, the Windows operating system or the desktop operating system that they might have used, the type of device that the user used, the types of activities that have been occurring again and again. And after all of these, the best part of the entire suite is that you can even have logs ingested in your cloud application security from any of your on-premise solution like the Barracuda, like the Palo Alto, or the Fortinet, depending upon whatever you have. You can also integrate logs into the cloud application security from any other syslog system, making the CASB as the sole single point of control to have a complete insight of your entire IT infrastructure. And you know what? The most amazing part is inside cloud application security, you can connect other cloud solutions like AWS, like GCP, and even Salesforce clouds to have the complete information insights or the events that are happening in those cloud platforms as well. So cloud application security, typically I would say that it performs a four-step process: discover and analyze the risk, sending a notification about the same to the designated administrators, getting that particular risk converted to a policy real time to make sure that the reoccurrence doesn't happen, protect your information, and also at the same time detect malicious data and threats coming up in your environment. This solution of CAS is offered at two different levels. One is an Office 365 CAS and another one is an M365 CAS. The Office 365 CAS is limited to only Microsoft Office 365 applications, and the control for Office 365 CAS is much limited as compared to M365. The current features that I spoke about, collaborating with third-party cloud providers and other solutions, it is Microsoft CAS, MCAS, the M365 CAS, which allows you to perform all those operations. That is
So I think we don't have any more questions. And however, still, if you feel that you would like to discuss on anything in particular, then we will be more than happy to engage with you. You all have my email ID on the flyer, and we'll be sending out an follow-up email just in case if you would like to discuss, and we can take it forward. And with that, we will be wrapping up the session. And certainly, thank you for all your time and interest and what we are doing at here in IITC for all you. And thank you, Ronak. Appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for being a part of the session. Hope it was informative for all of you. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you all. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.